Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is September 12th, 2023, and I will call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, I just want to do a sound check and make sure people who are joined via Zoom can hear us.
I see a thumbs up.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Bouchard,
Couple thumbs up.
Present.
Mr. Goldman,
Present.
Ms. Olson,
Present.
Ms. Weatherby,
Present.
Mr. Boggs.
Present.
Okay. We have a meeting agenda before you. Does anybody need any alterations or changes, additions, subtractions?
I would like to request just one additional thing under old business, and that is a request, or actually there's a couple of resignations and a couple of people that I would like to appoint to the B committee.
Absolutely.
It should take like a minute or two.
We always have time for bees.
Okay,
I love these. Okay, we will add that as item 6D.
okay.
That works for everybody else.
That's fine.
B, committee appointments.
I don't know if it's for this agenda or maybe future, but the training, the BZA and the planning board. We can discuss that at some time.
Okay, does that make sense? Do you want to do that tonight or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's add that at E. Okay, I would also, they're not items, but it sounds like based on who's RSVP'd, no. I don't think we'll end up with a special budget meeting, town board budget meeting on the 19th or the 21st. Rich, you're unavailable those days too, right? Okay, so we will not have a quorum for those will.
But what the purpose of the meeting at the highway barn is for what?
That is to get a tour of the highway barn. And we did it a
We
couple
did
of
it
years
last
ago.
time, Yeah.
We didn't do it last year. We did
2
it
years ago.
2 years ago. Right now, we have it scheduled as a special town board meeting in case there were 3 board members who wanted to attend. I want to go. You want to go? Yep.
That's on the 29th, right?
That would be on the 29th. If you can't do that date, Scott's willing to do a different date. Yeah.
I can't do it that date, but if somebody else wants to,
I mean, I've been to the town board.
Once, yeah, well,
if you don't want to go.
Yeah, they're absent after the last 2 weeks is the
so what I would recommend is that we could still have 2 of us go, but it doesn't need. The reason it's good to know this is because of how much work Carissa has to
Yeah,
do.
sure.
So if we don't need it as a special town board meeting, then we will act that one.
That would be on the
So
29th.
the 29th, and we'll also the 19th and 21st, we will not have forums. So we're not planning to take any action at any of those. Those were just budget conversations, but so we do not have any budget modifications either. So that's gonna be amended as well. Okay, then if there are any other changes, I will accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Move to approve as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
So many seconds, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now that we've approved an agenda, have we hit 7:00? We still have 1 minute. Oh, no, now it hit 7:05, so we're fine. The public hearing on the local law forming the Department of Public Works was scheduled for starting at 7:05, so I wanted to make sure we didn't start early. Okay, is there a motion to open the public hearing on local law forming a Department of Public Works?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
The males
Aye.
are dominating here.
All
I
the-
know.
I think we need to go see the Barbie movie.
You just can.
Okay, I don't really think that was a clear vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have now opened the public hearing on a local law forming a Department of Public Works for the public who may or may not be here for this. Everybody who wants to speak on this subject will have an opportunity to speak. If you're here to speak on a different subject, please hold that for privilege of the floor. The Department of Public Works proposal it's to shift the highway department to a Department of Public Works. The highway department, the rationale behind it is the highway department is already doing jobs that fall under the public works category, including water management for Water District 3, the one in Jacksonville, as well as mowing of cemeteries, and we mowed the park in Jacksonville and a variety of different things like that. Did you know that if someone defaults on taking care of a cemetery, it becomes the town's responsibility? So that's how we get cemeteries. We don't own them, but we take care of them. So that is what the Public Works Law proposal is. We're not taking action on the law tonight. It's just a public hearing. So is there anybody in the public who wishes to address us about this law? What I do for this little info, I open up to the entire public, but I have to go back and forth between people in person and online. So is there anybody in person who would like to address us on this subject? Okay, is there anybody online who wishes to address us on this subject? Krista, is there any way you could click over? I'm worried that we're there. Okay, thank you. You can raise your little hand or come off of video. Okay, can I go back to in person? Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us on this topic? Okay, I'm gonna go back to online. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us on this topic?
I did receive a comment,
Yep, I was gonna ask you that next.
Yep. From Vivian Rose, which I sent to everyone. And will be part of the public record.
Sounds good. Okay, well, it does not seem like anybody who is joining us in person or online is here to speak to us about our public hearing. So I would accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If anybody feels so moved, at the end of this meeting or during the meeting to get a copy of this, in addition to it being posted online, we do have copies of it. And it will certainly come up again at a future date. Okay, with that, I would like to open to privilege of the floor. The town board did set a 30-minute maximum for this particular privilege of the floor. There will be a 10-minute maximum at the end. That does not mean you get to speak individually for 30 minutes. That means collectively. You have 30 minutes, and each individual is able to speak once for up to 3 minutes in this session and up to 3 minutes in the second session. So with that, I would like to, I'll start again with, I have a timer. I will set a timer off, so it will go off when your time is up. And so people are generally quite courteous in Ulysses and either stop right before or soon after it ends. So I appreciate that. So I will open it up to in person. Is there anybody in person who would like to speak to the town board? Yes.
I'm Bob Howard. I've been a resident in the town of Ulysses for 37 years. I live in Reynolds Road. I've been on the BZA for the last 10.5 years. I was the chair of the BZA for 4 years. I'm currently in the vice chair position I've held for the last 3.5 years. And I thank you for adding to your agenda tonight, discussion on the planning for the BZA. As Rich Goldman can attest, those of us in the BZA are extremely unhappy with the mandate that came down. We firmly believe in training mandated by both town law and by state law, and I and others have taken more than the minimum training for a long time. But we think that the particular approach you've taken with the training mandated for us in your July 25th meeting was unhelpful and not done in a way which was inclusive. And so since then, we've had 2 BZA meetings only. The one that Rich came to was a marathon meeting. We went on for a long time with 3 politically heated variances, but I think we did a good job. And at the end, I thank Rich because he stayed and heard our complaints. He promised to bring those to you collectively. We've had one other meeting since then. And which was not there. But I think the issues are still out there. And what I would ask tonight, if you take no action tonight, then I believe by the time your next meeting comes into play, those of us who have not reached your mandate will be out of compliance with your mandate. It comes into effect at the end of next week. And I think that would be a mistake for you. So my request for you is that tonight you put a moratorium on your policy until such time as we can have a true heartfelt, interwoven discussion, at least with the BZA, perhaps the planning board, perhaps other committees that are under this plan in the town, but at least the BZA. I think it would be in the interest of the town to do so, certainly in the interest of the BZA. And again, if you don't take action tonight, we will be out of compliance before our next meeting. I think that'll be problematic for the town as well as me as a BZA member. So thank you for hearing me out. Again, all I'm asking for at the moment is a moratorium leading to a true conversation. Let's see if we have shared goals.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Would the town board entertain me asking a clarifying question?
Yeah.
It would be helpful if you could express specifically which of the trainings for the public we are asking these boards to take are ethics, sexual harassment prevention, civil rights, section 6, title 6, which is a federal law. And I'm wondering which of those in particular are all of those the trainings that you're proposed to take.
And how much time do I have to respond?
I'm just asking, are these, if there are any specific trainings, not the rationale, but just
Here's
which
an
training?
individual tonight, not speaking to BZA,
Okay.
although Rich will tell you, I think every single member of the BZA has issues with it. First, I think the way you're describing the intent is not what in practice was imposed. So in fact, the imposition for those of us who were not able to attend the in-town, in-person meeting you had before the mandate came down and also conflicted me with my employment, couldn't come in any case. You are now mandating that you take an hour and a half of that on employment law, basically. Totally inappropriate and not what you just said. So I think you were not stating it correctly in the record. That's partly why we need a larger meeting. I have no problem at all with training on ethics, et cetera, et cetera. And I wrote to you all collectively recently. You know, I sit on a commission for the state of New York. I'm a special U.S. government employee. I work for the state of New York at Cornell. I work at the University of Chicago at the Marine Biological Lab in Woods Hole. I have taken 17 hours worth of training on ethics and things over the past year. And I think what you're asking for, in my case, is redundant. But in addition to that, you are requiring us to take things which are totally inappropriate and a distraction from the training we need as a BZA. And since you asked, you know, the BZA.
I'm sorry, we've gone way over 3 minutes. I do appreciate your clarification. And you're welcome to speak another time in public session if you'd like. So I just want to be sure that we have enough time for everybody to speak. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Again, what I'm asking for is we have this open discussion with the
understand.
whole BZA.
I
That's
understand.
my request. And it
Thank
has to be tonight. You have to vote.
Okay, is there anybody else in the public who wishes to speak? Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I violated my own rule. Apologies. This will not affect the 30-minute time. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? I'm not seeing any hands yet, but there's time. The best way online is to raise your hand or come off onto video. Please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. My name is Todd Edmonds and I'm the president of Trumansburg Community Recreation. And I wanted to take this opportunity to say a few words in support of the purchase of the Crumbs Corner property the town is considering. If you don't know, TCR is a nonprofit organization formed in 2016 to work alongside the town, the village, and the school to help facilitate development of spaces for sports and rec in Tinker. Over the past several years, we have focused on finding a parcel that can provide us room for some of the elements our community asks for from our needs assessment in an outdoor rec space, including soccer fields, walking paths, baseball fields, and football field, and other elements. While we looked for property, we also looked for funding. We discovered that very little funding was available for projects like this without currently having property secured. So after scouring the market for a 20 to 30 acre parcel, engaging with landowners with spots in or near town, and even reaching out to property owners with land not currently for sale, we could not secure any property. And then in 2022, the town board suggested they may have a once in a generation opportunity to utilize funding from the American Recovery Plan to potentially make a property purchase. So after 7 years, this is a kickstart this initiative really needs. However, this funding is not available forever. When the Crumbs Corner property became a possibility, we knew that we had to act quickly since it was not on the market, and if it did go to market, it could probably be out of the town's reach to purchase it. It is large, undeveloped, near the Black Diamond Trail, and would be a great first step in getting more spaces for our community. Is this the perfect spot? No, it is not walking distance from the village. But it does have significant advantages. It is far from traffic, providing a safe spot for families away from dangerous highways. Has lots of room for 50 items in the overall footprint and is not far from town. If you have kids that play sports and have traveled to other communities to compete, you probably have seen how far away from the towns their rec spaces are. And that's probably because of the same issue we face. Property value is high and it's hard to compete with commercial development dollars. As a result of 7 years of work on this initiative, the board of TCR is excited to support this land purchase. We know that together as a community, we can develop this space that works for everyone, that all of our community can enjoy, it can be accessible, sustainable, and we can do this transparently and thoughtfully to address any concerns. If this once in a generation opportunity is not supported by our community, we risk losing the option to use this funding, as well as having to go back to the drawing board looking for more property, which could literally set us back for years. The time is now. After literally decades of community members pointing out that we need these spaces and resources soon, this is the time to act. So please, let's put the stake in the ground so we can get started on the long road of design and development for this much needed space.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. If people have comments and you can share them with me, that would be much appreciated. Email or it'd be hard to copy or whatever, so I can make sure everything gets captured. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? Okay. Is there anybody in person who wishes to speak on any subject? Yes.
Hi, my name is Claire Hofflinger. I also appreciate the opportunity to speak, also speaking on behalf of this land acquisition tonight. I'm a parent of 3 children in the school district, grades 9, 6, and 4. And our family has been part of the Taconic Soccer Club extended family for 8 years at this point. I also helped to bring the National Girls on the Run program to Trumansburg 5 years ago, and have loved being a coach there ever since. I'm a member of the Trumansburg Education Foundation and serve on their wellness committee. And I'm devoted to and passionate about improving the wellness for our community through these lenses, roles, and organizations. And I've spent countless hours watching my girls play soccer at town parks across the Finger Lakes in the Southern Tier region. Trumansburg, our town of Ulysses, we really are an anomaly in that we do not have a town park to provide these recreational facilities that Todd was just speaking of. I believe that's unacceptable, honestly, because we're missing an opportunity to support the wellness of our community members of all ages, not only our youth. One may think that such a land purchase and a facility will only impact physical wellness, but I would strongly disagree. We can promote physical wellness, of course, by offering opportunities to physical activity, but we can also support emotional and social wellness by providing community gathering spaces that are safe and accessible, environmental wellness by maintaining green space, protecting it from large-scale development, and financial and vocational wellness by offering access to programs and opportunities that are affordable and close to home and work for our community members. And this is the basis for which I view the land purchase. I know it will improve community wellness, and I know that improving community wellness will improve the mental and physical health of the people living in our community. I also wanted to take a moment to share my perspective on some of the pretty negative feedback that I've heard circulating in the town about this purchase. I've heard that some feel, as Todd said, that it's outside the village and that is unacceptable. But as Todd said, we don't have other viable alternatives. And when we have nothing else, that's the least accessible option. I know there's also a strong desire to protect agricultural land, and I'm a huge supporter of that as well. I live on a farm, I live surrounded by ag land and support many of our local farms. It's really important to me. I don't think this will diminish our local farming capacity. It's simply just not a large enough capacity to do that. And it will protect green space, as I said, and I think that's incredibly important and valuable and in line with supporting our agricultural integrity overall. Finally, I've heard there's concerns about light, noise, and traffic pollution, and that we already have sufficient space at the school that we pay taxes for. In my 8 years as a very proud soccer mom, I can't recall one time that I pulled into a town park that was filled with noise, light pollution, congested traffic, or anything like that. Instead, I pulled into parks where kids were playing, community members were talking to their neighbors, parking was ample. children were happily playing on playgrounds. We had a safe space for our kids when we couldn't engage. So, thank you. I'll stop.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. Moving online, I do see a hand, Kaplan online. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I also like to thank Todd and reiterate kind of what Claire just stated there. My name is Rob Kaplan. I'm a coach with Teganic Soccer. I have 2 kids that have played in the program for years. And I just want to reiterate the need for space and some of the challenges that we faced over the years when space was limited during construction, during COVID. Our kind of constant competition with the schools and the developing programs in the area. You know, I think the space is well needed and will be used to further athletic endeavors of our community. And I also want to express my gratitude to the Washburns for their willingness to work with us in this project, and also the hard work that I know Todd has put in over the many years trying to find land. This hasn't been easy. He's looked at, I can't remember how many pieces of property to try to find something that was suitable. And this does check not all, but a lot of the boxes, and I want to acknowledge that as well. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us on any subject? Yes.
Like I said, my name's Randy Vanderzee. I'm not nearly prepared as these other people with any written statement, but I have been part of recreational programs in Trumansburg since the 60s, I would say, coaching youth baseball and other programs like that. I sat here, I think 30 years ago with Doug Austin with a group talking to him about trying to find facilities for our youth programs. So when Caitlin spoke of 14 years of trying to do something like this,
I was wrong.
it's been well over that we have tried. And the committee that I sat with here, I was hoping maybe I'd see someone, they're still around the community, but we have looked hard and long for facilities for our kids. And again, the school has been great. They have allowed us to use their facilities, but there's been many a day when you can't find a facility. The Trumansburg Fairgrounds, Dick Robertson created a baseball field out there that we used school legal use for quite a long time. But this is an opportunity, as they're saying, that's unbelievable and would be horrific to miss the opportunity to take advantage of it. Again, it may never come again, the opportunity that you have here. And it is sad to say that it might be an inconvenience to some people in the area. And everybody always says, we'd love to have that, but not in my backyard. But sometimes you gotta look at the bigger picture and say, this would have wonderful benefits for the kids, mostly the kids, I guess I say, but would be available to everybody in the community.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Okay, is there anybody in person who wishes to address us? Yes.
Tar Masters, prior president of TCR and longtime community member, very supportive of the town and purchase, very appreciative the town is willing to take the time and energy and all of the conversation and process that is entailed in this endeavor. For folks who don't know, we started this, as Todd said, about 7 years ago. As Mr. Vanderzee said, multiple more decades before that, trying to get this going. There is enormous support throughout the community. Unfortunately, they're all right now under the volleyball game, the soccer fields, and the football fields. So I just left there. There's probably about 400 people out there doing what they do. And the reason why we started what we started. And so we also did through this process a lot of research, not only searching for land, We had Design Connect with Cornell, who are educated students who came and did a lot of research. We held open forums, we did public surveys, we did online surveys, we did conversations, we did dinners. We've been talking about this and working towards it for a very long time. We really, really appreciate the town considering purchasing this property at full support.
Thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Then back to the room we go. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us? Yes, please.
Sorry, Roxanne Marino. I actually have a question and then I wanted to say one thing, which is that on the agenda, there isn't anything about the status of the purchase, and of course, there's a lot out in the community about that, so maybe the board could
No, it is.
still.
Recreation update.
Buddy, yeah, oh, that's what that is, okay.
Yeah.
And then because I actually have done both of the online trainings that are required now, since I was also unable to make the in-person meeting, and that was before it was even required to do so. I concur with what I've seen in messages the chair of the BZA has sent to the town board, which is that they are really pretty much non-applicable, except in the most incredibly broad sense to anything that the BZA, the planning board, or the comp plan steering committee does. Their stated purpose is to train supervisors and managers, and we aren't even employees, let alone supervisors or managers. So there's a very basic principle there, and that's fine. It's two hours worth of it though. And so and also it's put forward as designated to fulfill compliance with state and federal requirements, which I have not found exist for volunteers. Not that it's not good for us to get them, but it seems that it's only for employees. And also, this is supposed to allow for uniform training. And we get, some of us, I and others regularly get these trainings in our job and at other jobs. And so this is no more uniform to everybody in the town than anything else. The town board and didn't see these 2 hours worth. I'd asked some of the members of it and they had no idea what this was about, that this was for supervisors and managers stated. So we're not getting the same training. So maybe have opportunities where there's an evening and a daytime. So we all have uniform training. I understand that, but 2/3 of the material is now different. So that's not uniform. I have no objection to being trained on how to recognize, avoid, deal with sexual harassment or civil rights infringements. And I fully believe in fostering and being a part of a culture that has a respect for all persons. I would just request that the board be respectful of volunteer time and our ability to translate basic core principles of civil rights and harassment prevention to the environment that we work in, and allow for parallel training received from other organizations to be counted to meet the town's training requirements for sexual harassment and civil rights. There's many opportunities for training available to help volunteer board and committee members such as the BZA, Planning Board, Comp Plan Committee understand their charge and responsibility and be better aware of tools that are available to do the best possible job for the town and our fellow citizens. So I urge you to reconsider the current training requirements towards something more uniform and more focused.
Thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? If so, please raise your hand. Or your Zoom hand. Or come off. I saw someone else came on. That's the only reason I'm reiterating that. Is there anybody else in person who wishes to address us? Once, going once, going twice. Anybody else online? No? Okay. Then we will end before the 30 minutes with it. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's see where we are up to next. Reports. We have Legislator Corman is online with us, and I bet has some county updates if you're available.
She was there.
Oh, she's still there.
She's still there.
There she
Oh,
is.
there she is.
As it turns out, I do have a few updates. Thanks, Caitlin. I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, I don't want to be
Supervisor.
there.
I've been to too many meetings lately. Okay, let's see. We'll start off with something fun. Sunday is airport day. So if you're looking for a fun outing this weekend, you can go up to the Ithaca Airport. They're starting with the pancake breakfast, lots of activities for kids and adults. So head on up there this Sunday. And that starts at 7 a.m. Thursday, so in 2 days from now, the county's having a strategic plan input forum, and it's for almost this whole district of the county. We're only having a few of them, so the one in Enfield is pretty much the one on this side of the lake. So we're inviting everybody to come to that. So that's at the Enfield Community Center Thursday at 6 p.m. And if you can't make it, you can go online and give input into our strategic plan, things that you might want us to do new or better. So we really value all the input from the community. And something not as fun, but I think very interesting. On the 19th, next week, at 5:30 at our legislature meeting, our county administrator is going to be presenting their proposed budget for 2024. So I think it's actually very interesting because it involves all the department's capital projects and things like that. And one of the things that's been on our capital plan for a couple of years that we decided to put some money towards the engineering and design plans finally is the center of government. And I can talk more about that if you're interested. Let's see, Monday at the committee I chair, the Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee, one of the topics we're going to be discussing, which affects all of us, is CLEAN is coming. Cayuga Lake Environmental Action Now is coming to discuss the, the possibility of Cargill selling their Lansing salt mines. And I say possibility because I have it from a few reliable sources that it is up for sale. I contacted Cargill directly. I talked to 2 different people who said they cannot, they don't respond to rumors. And I did invite them to the meeting, but they don't think they'll be coming. So you're welcome to come and listen in. You can also listen in on YouTube or come and express your concerns or questions or ideas. And the Tompkins County Public Library is going to be closed from the 15th of this month through October 2nd because we're doing a big overhaul on the HVAC system to do a lot of energy efficient upgrades. So sorry about that, but that'll be closed from the 15th to October 2nd. And broadband is something I've talked about quite a few times. And what we're doing is we just put out an RFP, so it's a request for proposals that went out to look at how to fill the areas of the county. And there's at least one in the town of Ulysses where people either can't get internet or it's such a low speed that it really doesn't count as functional internet. In fact, that's I believe it's 100 megabytes per second or less. Doesn't really count as functional internet when a lot of us have to be on Zoom meetings or work or school things. So we did look at the TCOG, the Tompkins County Council of Government suggested that we also look at the county owning the whole internet system. So like the whole broadband system throughout the county, like to start our own broadband. And the estimates for that were between 100 and 150 million. And to do infill, it's estimated to be 7 million, only 7 million. And which with grants and other things, we think that the county would then only be responsible for about 1 million to help with that. So we decided to go with that one. And one of the things too, just to let you know that really made me really want to not do municipal owned was that financially what happens when municipalities own their own system, they often start with the more congested areas, the more densely populated areas, which is the opposite of what we want to do here. So that would take many more years before we would infill into some of the rural areas and in Ulysses and Enfield, for instance. We decided to sell what's called the Red House. A lot of people have been calling it that. It's property we own at 408 North Tioga. It's an older house that we were thinking on that plot of land to put a center of government, but now we've decided to put it further down in more of the downtown section. And we bought some properties on the same lot where we already have some county buildings. So that's where we would likely be putting it. Now this is hard for me to pronounce. Legionellosis is which is exposure to the bacteria Legionella. You might have heard or seen a health alert from our health department, and we've had this is a couple of weeks old, the report I'm reading from, but so there was at least 12 cases, and we've had at least one person die. It's not contagious from one person to another, and we are looking at possible sources for that. And the last thing I had was the sales tax report. I didn't know if you wanted that.
Sure.
Okay. Pardon me?
Wasn't it given to us? I don't know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you're giving it to, it's up to you if you want me to read it.
No, that's fine. If it's the one we have most recently, then we're all good. Thank you.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you. Does anybody have anybody on the town board have questions for Ann?
And did you want to talk about their floating classroom trip we took?
Oh, yeah. Sure. I didn't know if you were going to report on that too, but yeah, so Senator Leah Webbs, Senator Rachel May, and State Assembly person Anna Kellis sponsored an educational discovery tour on the lake, on the floating classroom, and it was really interesting. I had never been on that, so I really encourage people, you know, whether you have kids or not. I really learned a lot about the lake and the fragility of it. And and then we had an educational forum after that talking about PFAS, I have a hard time pronouncing poly. I'm sure someone else there knows the PFAS issues with toxic chemicals in our ground and our water. And they also mentioned about that they have also heard that Cargill is possibly up for sale.
Cargill.
Sure.
Yeah, but they talked about it last week.
Yeah, Anna Kellis is working on it for the salt one. She wants to see if the state can take it over.
That's a lot of people. Yep, awesome.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks so much, Ann. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
That brings us to, sorry, moving along. Does anybody else on the town board wish to do any updates? The staff report were circulated in the board packet and posted on the website. Anything else for the good of the order?
The WSPP group is moving right along, and you guys will be presenting to the board. Well, I won't be here for that our second meeting, but the survey is very close, and I think it's giving you a couple things that need is approved. So I think we're just about ready to go out for the survey. So they'll have a presentation, dates and what's going on.
That's a September 26th meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
Just because it happened yesterday, but the Ag Committee is gonna schedule the next meeting finally. It's scheduled for October 2nd from 7 to 8 at the fire hall. The notices will be going out tomorrow or Thursday. We're working with Niels and Molly just to get the notices out in the public notice in the newspaper as well. And comprehensive plan steering committee meets tomorrow. If anybody's interested in joining, meets at 5:30 here.
Yes, and
online. So we're gonna continue discussions on the next steps for the comp plan.
Richard, Mary, I have a couple updates, but I'll go after you guys.
I don't really have.
We are looking at having I believe, don't hold me to it, I believe it's October 12th. Is the date that we're going to be aiming for to have an end of year gathering. For the youth and employers and the youth families. And the town board is going to be invited, and the youth commission will be invited, the county will be invited. We ran a really successful youth employment program this summer, and it was run in-house by the town this year for the first time in a long time. I don't know how far back it's been since it was run in-house. But we had a really great summer, and we want to celebrate everybody. So that's going to be coming up. I will confirm that date once. It'll be at the library. Is where we're aiming to do it. The final time hasn't come out.
What's the date again?
I believe it's going to be October 12th.
Okay.
It hasn't been permanently finalized, but it would be a great save the date. I believe it's 6:30 is the time. So if you're available, that would be awesome. And the youth commission approved its proposed budget for both the town and the village on last Tuesday night. Contract negotiations with rural youth services did not pan out for any number of reasons. And so in 2024, we are going to be looking at how to provide youth development services in the best way to support youth in our community. We have like to do a shout out both to Ann Corman and also to Kate Shanks Booth, who is the director of youth services for the county, who has been just a phenomenal. They've been both phenomenal to work with. Kate is working directly with us, and I will have contracts for our next meeting for the town board to approve. The county allocates funding for youth development in municipalities. And so the youth commission put forward a proposal to the county for how to use that money for the balance of this year, because we were not in contract with rural youth services. And so we will be bringing those contracts to the town board for consideration. It's I really appreciate what the county has done. So we later on the agenda, we do have an appointment of a seasonal position through the end of this year to provide those services, in addition to Rachel Kennedy. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff happening, and we're excited to be back in the schools, particularly the middle school this year or this fall. But we are coming on the heels of a really, as Rachel told you about when she was here, a really successful program. We've been doing for a very long time in the town, so it's good to see it continue. We do have, I just want to make sure people are aware, both, I mean, the board I know is, but we will be having a fire and EMS meeting at the fire hall this Thursday at 7 p.m. The public is welcome. It will be a town board meeting. It'll be a joint meeting. I believe the village will probably have a meeting too. If there are other municipalities who have enough representatives, they will have to have joint meetings simultaneously. This is where we're going to get the full breakdown on the costs, and so that the public is well aware. The fire and EMS costs are not costs we control, but they constitute approximately 37% of the money that we have to levy in the taxes. So that's a real sizable chunk, and the town doesn't, it's either yes or no. You either agree to it or you don't agree to it, kind of thing. So what I've understood is we're looking at a fire budget increase of between 14 and 15%, a slight decrease in the range of 1 to 2% on EMS, but we will see those final numbers presented publicly on Thursday. So if you're not at a sports event and want to come hang out at the fire hall, some of us will be there. So that's all I have right now. Anything else before we move on? Krista, do you want to say anything about anything important shaken in the clerk's office?
Nope, just busy, working away.
Thank you very much, always. Oh, absolutely, I'm sorry. Is there anything for CSAC or, the, is it I can't remember. Are we at SWPB? What is the current acronym?
Water source.
It's water source, not source water.
Well, that's how it was. The plan, like in the state, is source water protection plan, but the resolution that formed the committee and the project said water source.
Okay,
protection.
thank you for that clarification.
We say water source. protection.
Got it. Okay. Do either of you have, updates you'd like to go? Linda's on.
She's on. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
There you are, Linda.
I think Michael did a good job of covering it before. I don't think,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So we do have one further question, Michael, I guess that you're taking.
Yeah, I gave that to
Okay.
Caitlin this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great, so,
yeah, we had a meeting earlier.
okay,
today,
that's
yeah.
great, so we'll find out about that regarding the survey.
Yep.
Yeah, working away on that, and so the CSAC is, meeting, tomorrow, actually, evening. And that, if for people who don't know, that's Conservation Sustainability Advisory Council, that we have here, and, some of the members have brought forward, the issue of the Seneca Meadows landfill closure, and, there's a couple groups working on that, and they're reaching out to municipalities in the Finger Lakes and, asking about considering resolutions to send to New York State, DEC, and the town of Seneca Falls and others, opposing changing the current plan, which is to close it in 2 years. And instead of extending the length of it, quite a lot. And so, we've gathered a lot of information, and we're gonna look at that and see if there's some, we wanted to bring to the town board as a resolution to consider. The Tompkins County Legislature and the Schuyler County Legislature have passed resolutions supporting continuing on with the culture plan. So that's one of our main agenda items. And then the only other thing is that we are now 100 from another $10,000 grant for clean energy, and some actions that we could do in the town. So we're working on doing one more action so that we can qualify for that.
Well, there's code training.
Mhm.
Oh, no, but we already have that.
Oh, we have that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dang,
I know.
that's like
No,
220
I looked at them
points.
all. I actually joked with the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator who I've been emailing with, and I'm like, you can just find me 100 points. But anyway.
Sounds like a plan.
I know, right, we have a couple of ideas that we're working on. It's mostly just finding the time to do it. So, but we're close, and so then that'll be something else for. We can make suggestions, and the board can, consider what they'd like to do with those funds.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. If anybody can find them, I trust you to find them. I do not trust on the boats in Atlanta. The question, just, someone asked me this, or I heard it in a conversation, they didn't ask me because I don't know the answer, was trash has to go someplace, so where's the plan for, when Seneca Meadow closes, what's the impact on where it ends up going?
Yeah, I don't have all that in front of me now, I haven't read it, but, well, right, actually, Tompkins County's trash doesn't go there.
Okay.
Right now, anyway, I suppose it potentially could in the future, it comes from, a lot of it is from much farther away, like New York City. And yeah, it does have to go somewhere, and I think part of this effort is to try to get the New York State to adopt, the DEC to adopt this draft plan that they're working on about, recycling into a circular economy with reuse and all. And, Bob could probably speak a little more to that because he's on the Climate Action Council. And Tompkins County also is really strong on recycling and solid waste already. And so just trying to, it's a challenge, trying to implement more of that and thinking about it differently. We're always gonna need landfills, but there's a lot of concerns people have with this one, including the Seneca Falls Town Board actually did not adopt the host community agreement, which would have extended it with the landfill owners. And they tabled it, so more to come on that, but they also voted 5-0 to ask state to study the cancer cluster, lung cancer cluster that's been identified right in the document. So there's a lot of reasons for concern. It's a tough issue that we have to grapple with this, I mean, for sure.
Absolutely. No, I was not going on the record as pro landfill. I just want to be.
No,
clear.
no.
You know, so I appreciate that.
Can I give you 20 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely.
40% of the trash going there now comes from out of state, the rest is all from New York City. So it serves no one outside New York City. And under the Climate Action Council for the state, which I'm on, after the implementation plan that passed last December, New York City will not be allowed to use it as of 2 years from now. So the only clients will be out of state.
Good to know. Thank you. Is there anything, any other, did I forget anybody else? I don't want to forget people. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, well, I think then we can probably move on. And I would like to welcome Matt McKenna up. Would you like a podium? Would you like to come to the table? Where would you like to?
Stand here and keep it informal. Thank you all for.
Why don't you come up here
Yeah.
just so the public can see you for time and all eternity for our YouTube
So
channel.
thanks for having me here tonight. I'm Matt McKenna with MRB Group. We're a town engineer. We've been assisting with various things throughout the town, including some grant applications. And then last year we submitted a grant application through the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application Process. Looking at evaluation and engineering planning grant where we would study certain culverts throughout the town. There was a list of 7 that were provided by the DPW or Highway Department for culverts, box culverts, pipes that were in what's called rough condition to be evaluated and look at prioritizing those culverts for replacement, repair, improvement. Through a program through the New York State DEC. The town was successful with that grant application that was submitted and was awarded $30,000 for an engineering planning grant with the requirement that the town provides a 10% local match. That can be in-kind services, other means to hit that $3,000. So you know, it's a very opportune time for the town to go ahead with this, to look at 6 sizable culverts. We actually had submitted for 7, but the town received an award through a separate program for Curry Road box culvert. So, you know, it's a newer program through the DEC. It allows us and allows the town to develop a report that can be used to go out and find funding. What can we do to offset the construction costs? And look at, you know, if we got 7 culverts, let's focus on the top needs and go from there. The program does look at aquatic connectivity, so that can also help score the project if there's a break or a barrier that would prevent fish or frogs, you name it, moving upstream. That obviously from a DEC standpoint helps score certain components, but MRB has 2 proposals in front of the town board tonight. One would be for grant administration. I'll start there. That's to help and assist the town through the process. There's quarterly reports, there's insurance requirements, MWBE goals. It's some of the red tape that comes with the program, but MRB has a proposal for $3,500. That would be hourly, not to exceed, so just as the needs come up. To assist the town on getting through this program. The second proposal is for the engineering report itself. That is to do an existing evaluation, condition assessment, and then also look at proposed improvements. So MRB proposes to have structural team included, our site development team looking at what it would take for repair or replacement. Now, obviously, our water and environmental engineers looking at the aquatic connectivity. So that report scope is for $24,900. MRB would present that to the town, incorporate any comments that town board I would have or any other folks. And then at that point, MRB would go ahead and submit and begin looking to see what funding is available throughout the state across various programs to look at repairing or replacing some of these culverts. So I will say we do have a lot of work at hand. with the size and the locations of these culverts, it will be very difficult evaluation in my opinion, but we look forward to getting into it. So,
The good news too for the public is that one of the culverts we originally applied for is what everybody thinks of as the Curry Road Bridge, but it's technically a culvert. And subsequently, we received 1.5 million to save and redo that culvert. So that culvert comes off the list, and so we don't have to. That was one we definitely needed. When the board originally applied for this grant last year, it was with the understanding that this grant is needed, the work from this grant is needed in order to go for the competitive funding for the actual repairs or replacements, as the case may be. And the reason Michelle Wright does most of our grant administration, the reason we're bringing, we would like MRB to do it is in part, this is the technical programs that you have to do the reporting in are something she hasn't worked in, and there would be a pretty significant learning curve. And it doesn't seem really worth the trade-off when we thought 3,500 was a reasonable amount. So.
Do you want us to vote on this individually or?
The resolution is a collective. It has both of them listed in there, so it'd be,
I move the resolution.
is there a second? No, we got just more, any further discussion?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Was this, did we put this out to bid or did we just?
So they are actually, we don't need to put it out to bid because of how the grant was written.
We don't need to put it out to bid, but should we put it out to bid? I mean, because.
But this is using the money we're getting right from the grant you wrote, right? Isn't that $30,000 covering this?
Yes.
So there's no cost to us.
Well, it's a 10%.
There will be a 10% match, but
Yeah,
we're actually
but that
coming
could
in
be-
less than,
Right.
yeah.
But the 10% could be in kind.
It's a 10% cash match, but
Oh, yeah.
the way the proposal is written is we're actually gonna be coming in less than, the whole thing was originally, we were planning to spend up to $33,000. But this is coming in at, in part, I imagine, because Curry Road is no longer being assessed. 24,900 plus the 3,500. So 90% of that will be paid by the grant, 10% will be paid by the town.
I just want to make sure we don't keep hitting the easy button. And because there's lots of firms that do this stuff.
Right.
So there's no reason, something like this, you can't get 3 bids pretty easily.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying.
I thought Matt said that you can use in-kind matches.
I'll double check that and confirm, but I believe that's part of the work plan that we would assist the town with. We can.
The only reason I said that is Michelle prepared this and she did say a 10% cash match, and so I would just want
So
to.
it's confused. We don't know then.
The proposal says in kind too, matching funds or in kind services.
Then I would
On
amend the
second page.
resolution, and if we are wrong and it's only cash, we will deal with that too.
It actually defines what in kind services could be.
Well, Michelle is doing a lot of budget stuff right now, so I'm not gonna, there was no criticism there when I said that.
And when's the completion date on this?
So our intent would be CFA application, that period usually around June timeframe. Project can be listed at the state funding agencies. So our goal would be to have the final report ahead of June, but obviously draft, I think by March to review with the town, incorporate any last, final comments would be appropriate.
Okay.
Any further questions? Comments? And I will move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Busy on Curry Road.
Yes, you are.
What else is happening?
The other culvert's gonna be replaced.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's the one that's in
That's just down in Trumansburg. That's gonna,
Boulder Creek.
I don't know where that is. I was trying to figure out that one.
Okay.
Okay,
There.
moving on, appointment to the recreation supervisor. This was the position the town board created at our last meeting on August 12th-ish, 10th, August 10th. This is the position that we created to provide services for the balance of this year. It's a seasonal position. And we created it to to provide the youth development programming that was already budgeted for that we had not spent yet. So there's no budgetary impact to this. This position is the funding that will come through the contracts, and I understand from the county, I will have the contracts this week. So I already know that we've been green lighted for the payment that's offsetting the cost. And so this resolution, I would like to appoint Ryan Holmes as recreation supervisor. Ryan is well known to the town. He has actually served as the camp director for the last 3 years. He is going to be leading the tennis clinic next week. So he's a very well-known person already in the town's ecosphere. So I would like to move that appointment.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. He will most likely be starting next week, so I will send out information to the town board, and he has an email address and all that good stuff. Okay, that brings us to a recreation update. I would like to take a couple minutes just to give an update on where we are in relationship to the recreation land acquisition. I would like to say that I have really appreciative of how much public interest this site and this property and this activity has generated. We normally have crickets in terms of, actually earlier today there was a cricket in here that we were a little bit worried was going to be a distraction during the meeting. But you know, it's hard for people to spend time attending town meetings. Everybody has a lot going on, and so I think public engagement, whether you're for or opposed, I think is wonderful to see. So what is happening is that the town's attorney is currently reviewing a petition that was submitted last Thursday, September 7th. The town will not be acting on that petition at this meeting. You will not be surprised to hear New York State is complicated with many things related to these kinds of things. And so we will be planning to update the public more thoroughly on it on September 26th. We are, however, very likely moving in the direction of a public vote, and we will set a date per New York State law at the next meeting or the meeting after. There is time to do that. There are passionate people on both sides of the land acquisition topic, and reasonable people can differ in what they believe is in the best interest of the town overall. I think it's really important to have good facts. And I've seen a considerable amount of inaccurate information that's being spread. So I wanted to take an opportunity to get a little bit more information out to the public. This is not going to be the only time this happens. We are going to schedule some public education sessions, some public forums. The town is always open for email comments. We're always open for questions, and I'm going to be compiling your questions, the public's questions, and be putting together a frequently asked questions section for the town website that could be distributed, because questions are good. Engaged citizenry is good. Being scared because of fear and inaccuracy is really bad and not helpful on either side. So right now we have what I truly consider, and I think is honest to say, once in a lifetime funding to make a sizable investment in our community. Every municipality in America received American Recovery Plan Act money to help counteract the issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Ulysses received approximately $320,000. Just out of curiosity, who here parked in the back parking lot tonight? Okay, good. So the initial plan for a big chunk of that money was to replace the back parking lot using a fairly sizable portion of the money, and in doing it in a what I think is in a great way, but it would be an eco-friendly design, permeable pavement, and a stormwater management plan. Now, those are expensive things. I've seen some softball calculations. Originally, we were earmarking about $100,000. A couple of years ago. Moving forward, we would be looking most likely and somewhere in the range of $150,000 for the back parking lot. I was new to the town board in 2021. It was my first year, or it was actually my second year. So I'm still relatively new. And I raised concerns that about using that money for that purpose. I was hoping that we could use special money for something that would benefit more people. It doesn't mean we don't need the back parking lot solved, but it was one of those things that not that many people actually use it in comparison to what I thought maybe there were some other things that could benefit a larger swath of the community. The rest of the board, you know, felt similarly, and we did not proceed forward. And maybe I'm not speaking for the rest of the town board when I say this, maybe they felt differently for different reasons, but we did not proceed to go and spend $100,000+ on the parking lot at that juncture. So that's kind of a little bit of the background. I'd like to explain one of the things that has been said is that the board acted hastily without any reason or logic, and that's just not true. The Washburn land is not adjacent to the village, and the reality is there's no affordable land adjacent to the village that we can acquire. There's currently, someone, you know, pointed out, there's land on Seneca Road for sale. That land is going for $37,000 an acre. I don't know if buying 3 or 4 acres there is really going to get the community really much in the way of activity. I'm not criticizing the owner of the property for wanting to make a profit on his land, on his or her land, but I also don't think it's in the public's best interest to buy it. I think the town can't afford it. It's important to understand how land prices are determined from a town standpoint. It's super different than if you're just going out and buying your own land. The way the town does it and is required to do it is we have to send it out to a third-party appraiser, and we got an appraisal for what vacant farmland in the town of Ulysses is worth, including the land we purchased, and that price is $7,000 an acre. Anybody who's tried to buy land in the town recently, you're seeing prices much higher than that. And there's not that much land available. If it's being posted, it's being posted for more than $7,000 an acre. And that's the limit. That is the most the town can pay for it. So it's not that the town is trying to be, you know, overly spendthrift and drive up costs. By no stretch is that how it's done. That's why we have independent appraisers, and that's why appraisals are conducted in the first place. So this land, while not adjacent, does have several advantages, and these advantages, at least to me, are some of the driving factors for why it was selected. Number one, it is on a quieter road, which means it'll be safer for children and adults to play near without being risked by hitting by traffic or running out into traffic. A flag lot means that the activity will be less disruptive to the surrounding area, not more disruptive. The reality is, and it's been said in session before, is that many families are already driving to fields. The population of the town is larger in the town outside the village than in the village. Now, I love the village. I'm so glad the village is here. I want the village to prosper, but we have a lot of families, mine included, Liz's included, right, who they can't walk to anything anyway. And my house has been around for over 200 years. You know, it's a situation where we shouldn't be doing it just for that, but the reality is if walkable land is not available at a price point that a public entity can afford to purchase, then we're just not getting land. Like, I mean, that's how it is. Stormwater. The town is very concerned about stormwater. We are budgeting money in our budget unrelated to this for making sure that the town is well suited to do well with public infrastructure in rapid rain events. That is what we're seeing as being a big threat to our town. We take this very seriously. And so from farm tiling, however, directly contributes to runoff into our ditches, which then flows into Cuga Lake. And agricultural tiling is not regulated by the town. The town cannot impose regulations on tiling. We can, however, impose and design stormwater controls on land that's not in agricultural use. And we could design to meet state regulations. We would want to meet state regulations and work, as the planning board has worked with any number of properties, on helping keep water on the property on which that water falls. So it's not, so it's percolating down into the water table and not just running off into the ditches and quickly either overflowing someone else's property or hitting the steep slopes with a lot of force. Drinking water. We know that drinking water is an issue in our community. Linda Little serves as the chair of our Water Source Protection Committee. Did I get it right? Right? Plan. Dang it. I at least got the beginning right. So the town believes in making sure people have healthy drinking water. And to be really honest, typical recreation fields in upstate New York are not irrigated. Most aren't because it can become a very, very challenging way if you don't have public water to water fields. Kids are used to playing in upstate New York. I don't irrigate my land. I bet a lot of you don't irrigate your lawns in the summer either. Like, this is just part of living in our community. So the idea that this is going to have a huge impact potentially on drinking water just isn't necessarily accurate. That's, you know, the idea that they have to be that fields have to be irrigated is just wrong. Cost. So we are in budget season. I am mindful of the fact that we cannot put high costs on our taxpayers. The reality is your taxes are being driven not by the town of Ulysses, but by the school district and by the county. The town of Ulysses constitutes a much smaller portion. That doesn't mean, though, that your tax bill overall isn't large. It is large. And the idea behind this is that we could purchase the property with money that is not coming from the tax base, number one, and we are not allowed to just reduce the cost of the taxpayers on their tax bill by just applying this money to it. That's actually something we are not allowed to do. That's not we can't just make your taxes really cheap this year because we have American Recovery Fund money. It's just not allowed to be used for that purpose. Because frankly, a lot of communities would do that instead of actually putting it to the good use of helping your community after COVID. And we think that that's what this is doing. The idea behind this is that the town would own the land and we would not develop the land until a variety of things happened. Number one, we had tremendous public input. So many public hearings, so many opportunities for the public to share what they would like to see and how they would like the land used. It is wrong to say there is a concept plan in place for this piece of land. TCR did develop a concept plan for the property that is currently owned by INHS. That used to be the Obels property. They were under the impression at that point, and I please hope I'm not speaking out of turn to say this because I've heard it said publicly, that they thought they were going to be able to develop recreation fields there. They developed concept plans for those fields. That wasn't going to be owned by the town, and it was being designed by TCR with the intention that TCR would be using it. That's not this property. Those plans are not our town plans. The idea is the land would be purchased, and how it would be purchased for recreational purposes. But what that purpose looks like in physical form is completely to be decided. At no point have we talked about building a recreation center there. So I want to I would like to clarify, disabuse, that's the word I was looking for, thank you. I'd like to disabuse the public of the notion that a recreation building is being constructed there if this land deal goes through. Can I say that 20 years from now, there won't be a recreation center there? No, I can't. I won't be on the town board then, I can tell you that. But the way the funding and design process would go is that we would create plans with significant public input, with the public input driving what was in those plans. And TCR is willing to be a private partner who could help fundraise. The town board can't go out and fundraise. We can't go ask our neighbors to contribute money to make our park a better place. But TCR can. And that's why we're not reinventing a wheel. That's why parks in the United States, for the most part, have friends of organizations. That's what TCR would be. An entity who could help us expand our reach. The town would have the ability to go after grants that are only eligible. The only entities that are eligible come to municipalities or government agencies. TCR could go after money that's only open to private property or private organizations, like not-for-profits. They are a charitable not-for-profit. They are an established group, the track record of working and connecting with our community. So we're not creating some weird system. We're doing what's being done across America right now. And so this is, you know, all part of that. So I just want to, again, I would like to be really, really clear that there is not a recreation plan in place for how specifically this land would be used. The intention of the town board was to purchase it for recreational use with the actual functions on that land to be determined after the fact. everything from traffic to congestion, to stormwater, to drinking water, to lights, to hours of operation could all be crafted in the part of the process. Those things, those are all solvable problems. Those are all solvable issues that we could work together on to make sure that this is an asset, not just for the town as a whole, but for this neighborhood in particular, because we are seeing younger families move into our community. And guess what younger families like having access to? They like having access to places for their children to go play and be active. There are families moving to our community who want their children to be spending less time on social media and screens and the internet, and more time kicking a ball and getting dirty and experiencing the best of a childhood. That's why families, frankly, are moving to our community and leaving places that are denser and do not have as many amenities. They want to move to a place like Ulysses. I moved to Ulysses for that reason as well. I wanted my children to grow up in a place like Ulysses, and I'm proud that they are. So where this is going, I'll get off my soapbox real shortly. The other thing I keep hearing is why can't we just do this at Camp Barton? Okay, there's going to be, we're organizing right now with New York State. There's going to be a public information session, just like we did the fire hall February of 2022. And there's going to be an information session. Camp Barton is awesome. I am super excited about Camp Barton. I am delighted that Camp Barton is moving forward. But Camp Barton is going to be a state property owned by New York State. And if you've been to Camp Barton, it has phenomenal resources. It's got 2,200 feet of beautiful waterfront. It has fantastic 3 falls, if the Frontenac Falls system, and it does have some green space that could fit a small soccer field and 1 baseball diamond, smaller baseball diamond. Someone posted recently, they're like, why didn't they just clear natural space and put more recreational facilities? And I can hear in this exact moment environmentalists in Ulysses flipping out because they don't want that done, number 1, and number 2, New York State's not going to have us do, not going to do that. This is going to be a New York State park managed by the town of Ulysses, the village of Trumansburg, and the town of Covert. This is not going to be the town of Ulysses recreation field. This is not going to be a park. Does it mean that a baseball game couldn't happen there? Sure, it could. 1 at a time. Does it mean you couldn't have some soccer going on a field? Sure, 1 at a time. But it doesn't. It's not a substitute. They're different facilities. The goal, I will be very upfront about that. One of my direct goals is to move our summer camp program that is maxed out in the school at 84 students. We cannot accommodate any more because the facilities in the school district is great. I wanted to move it to Camp Barton and be able to serve exponentially more than that and give children in our area and in Ulysses the best possible summer camp option they could ever have, that people pay thousands of dollars to send their kids to in other parts of our country and our state even. So I'm excited about that property. It's not the same thing as recreational fields for sports and for youth and adults. So getting off my shoulder very quickly. I would like to push it out to the public, finally, that if the public is aware of land, of vacant farmland, or land that's available for $7,000 or less per acre and available for 20 plus, really 25 or more acres, tell us. I've heard lots of people say that there are other options out there. I would love to see them. The town can't afford to pay $37,000 an acre. We're not allowed to pay $37,000 an acre. But if somebody is out there is interested in selling the town land that is walkable, not near agricultural fields, is on public transportation, is already fairly level, is not going to disrupt any water systems, all of those things and many more, please tell us, and please tell us by October 1st. We're working on our town budget right now. This money has to be allocated by the end of 2024. This is not money we can dilly around with and spend tens of thousands of dollars on designs and conceptions to tell us what we already know, which is there is not enough recreational space in the town of Ulysses for the people who already live here. If this space is developed, it will be used primarily by Ulysses residents. You will see your neighbors there. You will see the children who go to school here there. You will see the adults who live here there. And you will be actually supporting a sustainable effort because the people who can afford to leave to send their kids to Syracuse and Rochester and all the other places because they can go in tournaments there, because they can have more engaged opportunities there, they're taking their kids there. And they would stay local if they could. I know adults who go down to Ithaca and Lansing to play sports because they can't play sports here. So the people that would be in the traffic and the activity there, that would be our residents. It would not be some crazy strangers coming in from New York City. It's not to disparage New York City, but it's not the stranger, it's the locals who would be there. So we are moving in the direction. I'm holding a public vote. I think this is great. I think a public vote is wonderful because it's going to make it really, really clear where the public stands and whether the public ends up being for the acquisition or against the acquisition. We will have a clear, definable decision, and the town board will respect whatever that decision is. Right. And I think the community will respect it. We are a civil society, and for the most part, we're a pretty civil group. So the more information will be coming. I will be pushing information out in the newsletter, on the website, and in other venues, but that's where we're going right now. And we will see how it all shakes out. So any questions from the town board on that? Other than shut up, Caitlin. That's what they're all mentally thinking.
Yeah, no.
No,
well
appreciate it.
said. Yeah. Thank you.
And I think we really do encourage public input.
Absolutely. We're open 24 hours a day online to send us comments of all kinds. Best way to send it is to town clerk. She gets us everything, so. Okay, that brings us to the B committee.
Big committee, so I'll make this short and sweet.
Did you wear that shirt on purpose?
Yeah,
Aw.
be happy. Yeah, I wanted to announce a couple of people resigned from the B committee, Vivian Rose and Dorothy Brown. And I have a couple of people were interested in being on the B committee, and so I'd like to ask that the board approve their appointment. I have their application. People are George Myers, Myers, and Achala Wali, I think is how you pronounce her name. It's ACHALI WALI. And so I'm going to recommend that these two people who have been coming
I think this is wonderful.
okay.
It's the most popular committee in town. Love it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. Okay, that brings us to training for BZA and planning board members. This was not my item, so I will turn it over to whoever wanted to kick it off.
So, I don't know if you guys got copied of them, but I get several notes from the BZA about the training. I happen to concur with them. I get a lot of outside training myself. And I've been a proponent of training for the BZA and the planning board, but training that applies to their craft at hand. We have a lot of risk, potential risk with BZA, with how they govern, that could expose us to lawsuits and things. But I think as a town, we're really lucky with the horsepower that we have there. And I personally wouldn't want to burn up any more of their time, because they're all professionals and they're going to get this training elsewhere. Planning boards may be a little bit different. We have a little trouble hanging on to people there. And I don't know where we are with the training for that committee for planning board, but for the couple of hours it's going to take them more time. I would like to see them at least focus on planning board training, and then for the BZA training, because it is a volunteer board, and they're doing just about out of the kindness of their heart. So that's something I just wanted to bring forward. I don't know if Rich has any other.
Well, I mean, I think it's really unfortunate, how this kind of erupted and caused some bad will among the relationship between the BZA and the town board. It wasn't our intention, but hearing everybody talk, having been at many of the BZA meetings, I do think we need to find a way to accommodate other, similar trainings that they're given at Cornell. I mean, I never understood fully the need for everybody doing the same exact training. I've heard a legal argument which didn't really convince me. So I just think we should honor. I mean, I took the training the other day. It was fine. I mean, it was very general. It's true, but I did it. It took 2 hours. But I get trained at my work too in all these things. But I think some of the members of the BZA feel their time is so valuable that they don't want to duplicate other trainings.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So right now we have a ZBA that like everybody seems to have to take this training through Cornell or some other institution, but what happens if somebody comes on with BCA that doesn't have to?
Well, we have then they can take
So if you have something similar at your job or your occupation, you'll get that a waiver?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I don't see the need to, I mean, you've seen the training here and you've seen the Cornell training. Are they similar on sexual harassment?
Yeah, I took the training in person here.
Right, but you've also taken trainings at Cornell.
Yeah,
Are they similar?
yeah, they're, it's the
Pretty
same subject
standard.
material, yeah.
So
What about ethics?
Well, ethics is a 40-minute video you watch. I mean,
Is the recording of the video, the recording of the what we took
Well,
here.
it seems to me that you might run into different ethical situations on the town board or, for working for the town or volunteering for.
but the ethics video doesn't really go into that detail in the town board. It's general ethics training in terms of doing the right thing, just in general.
The one we took in person was fairly specific to the town.
That's
In
what I
terms of
thought.
talked
Like
about,
scenarios that
Yeah.
town officials or town staff can get into.
See, that isn't the one I took, that video. It wasn't the same video. Was it?
yeah, it was.
It was?
Yeah, so we talked about planning board. There's some questions raised about when to accuse yourself and.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah.
And to recuse. So that I would say, watch the 40-minute video. I mean, it's not, I don't think that's a big burden. You could listen to it, download it and listen to it while you're driving. I mean, but I do think, and I think the training that we mandated for the employer part
Mhm.
doesn't really apply to the BZA. So I'm sympathetic. I mean, I don't think
Is
it.
that sexual
What if-
harassment?
No.
or-
Training.
So to comply with sexual harassment, it has to be a interactive experience. So that's what the requirements are. So the ones that's under the New York State 2019 Sexual Harassment Prevention Act, I think is what I keep pronouncing, or something like that. And so the training has to be interactive. So even though the one in-person training was very applicable to here, and I've taken sexual harassment training a bunch of different places. I've taken the Cornell training, and I've taken it as a student. I took it as a graduate assistant, and I took it as a professor. And the trainings are different, and they're very much tailored to the type of situations you would find yourself in. I would like to see. Personally, I would like to see every member of those boards in the town board and public officials, because it really is public officials. BZA members and planning board members and our town historian and town board members can all act with independent agency on behalf of the town to some degree. They're a reflection of the town. I'm very sad to say that I became aware when I was town supervisor of both active and in recent past incidences of sexual harassment within the town government. I have made the board aware of that. I believe that uniform training in person together is by far the best way to understand what's appropriate, because what may be considered appropriate by one person is no longer considered appropriate by society in general and other people. And being mindful of how we treat each other, whether it's in a town board meeting, whether it's in a planning board meeting, whether it's with an applicant, or how any of us are treating staff. Whether or not it's a sexual harassment issue or a civil rights Title VI issue, discrimination related issue. If it protects the public and makes it less expensive to defend lawsuits in the future, we're going to get sued at some point. It is inevitable. And that's why we're not coming outside the norm of what's expected. If you serve on the Bolton Point Water Commission, and everybody serving on the Bolton Point Water Commission is a professional, right? You know, they're taking the trainings for their jobs as lawyers and engineers, all that. Bolton Point is requiring them to go through training that's provided by Bolton Point. So I don't think it's a situation. I'm happy to question whether or not an individual training was useful. I am very leery and personally would be very concerned about telling the public. We want to make sure that the people who are representing the town in these important roles, and they are important roles, these are not unimportant roles. I love the B committee, but we're not asking the B committee to do this, right? And it's not to say the B committee is not important, but the individuals that serve on these boards have independent agency and they're recognized as special.
But so can part of the training be relevant directly to the BZA and the planning board? Are there trainings directly for them in the system that we can use?
Well, so I guess it's two separate things. The state actually requires planning board and BZA members to take training applicable to them
Right,
for
but we haven't
their
provided that.
positions. We're not required to provide that, but number one, but Carissa circulates information all the time of different trainings that are open
Yeah.
and available. So, and we have money set aside that if somebody wants to do a training and the town can pay for it, that we're happy to do it. You know, if you look over the history of how consistent people are in completing the required training by state law, it varies, you know, but they're two different things. There's what the state requires for training, and because having professionals who are well trained, I think is a very important thing.
So what's the solution to this? I mean, I'd like to come to a solution, so we don't get mass resignations. People are feeling good about what they're doing, and they're feeling honored and respected. So what's the solution here?
Well, I don't want I don't want them to resign necessarily either. However, I would also like the public to feel and our staff to feel respected
Yeah.
and valued. And so having a culture of shared understanding helps get us to that point.
Yeah, Bob.
Am I allowed to say something just quickly?
Yeah.
What I asked for when I spoke to you at the beginning.
Yeah.
To put a moratorium thing until we can have a discussion with you and the BZA. I think you're terribly uninformed on some of the detail, and you can talk to one another, and half of what I'm hearing is wrong. So I think we need a discussion with the BZA. So far, you haven't done that, and unless you do, you're gonna have a very, very unhappy BZA. So
Right.
I see no harm whatsoever. I agree that training is critical. I've taken lots of training for the BZA and other things. I've pushed for that training. So as chair, we got the town council and we did it, right? So I'm all in favor of that, but it should be appropriate. And I think you should understand what we do in the BZA, what training is important. And I think you should be respectful of where we're coming from. To date, this process is not done. And that's where the BZA numbers across the board right now. It's not just me. So I'm asking for a moratorium so we can have a good discussion.
Just to be clear, has the BZA passed a resolution of all the,
No,
okay,
no.
so are you speaking on behalf of all the other members? I just want to make sure I'm
So
clear and
I'm speaking on
understanding.
behalf of myself.
Okay. Because to date, I've received 3 concerns from BZA members. I've not received it from
Rich
everyone.
Coleman was at our.
Oh, I watched that meeting. I was actually rather appalled by the lack of decorum that I saw in that meeting of how, and I was very disappointed to see a town board member treated in the way that he was treated. And I actually sent him an apology after I watched that.
You and I live in a different world views is all I can say. I ask again for a moratorium.
Yeah, okay.
I'll give it to you.
I mean, I'm
gonna go home because I do have other things to do. I ask for a moratorium. Thank you.
I don't have a problem putting a moratorium on it. We're developing a meeting that we think that we hope.
Can we get the board
Create a
BZA
Can we what?
to come to a meeting?
Yeah.
or-
This would have to be a
Well,
special, like, we don't,
So the town board has discretion to offer an additional 60 days, which is an additional 2 months from September 23rd, I think is the date. So
And so I think we should do that, put a moratorium on that, and then create this meeting where we can all sit around and have a conversation and hash out what's appropriate. And and have Nate there, so we actually know what's fully required, so they have they understand the legal authority here.
Oh, I would be very clear, and I think we are, is that we don't, the town boards does have some discretion. I have pushed forward the idea, and I have said it publicly before, that I think having public officials held to a higher standard for the service of the public and the benefit long-term is something that we should be doing. Does every municipality do that? Absolutely not. And there is discretion
But a
in
higher
this.
standard than what?
A higher standard, because I know of incidences that have happened with people who are constituted public officials in the town of Ulysses who have behaved in inappropriate ways, I am concerned that culturally, we are not where the town might want to think it is. So I get very leery of what I perceive as is that some people are special, therefore they do not need training. When I think all people benefit from training, even if you've taken the training before, I think you can learn something new from that. Does that say I will give ground on whether or not the particular training that was taken remotely is the best possible training we can give? I will give ground on that. Absolutely. I would like the training to be effective. I'm not interested in wasting anybody's time. But I would push the board to think very clearly about the message you're sending to the community that we want to hold by vote, we said we were gonna hold public officials to a higher standard, and what repealing that requirement.
Well, we're not repealing, that's not true.
If you repealed that requirement would look like.
So can we extend this requirement for 60 days with the intention of setting up this meeting with the BZA, who sounds like they're the biggest, but maybe
Yeah.
it's the planning board
Planning
too.
board has some issues also.
Right.
We can invite them on,
Have Nate there,
yeah,
I believe all but one member of the planning board have taken the training.
right,
and all of us have taken it.
yeah.
What about the comp steering committee?
A lot of the comp plan steering committee took it in person. I don't know the exact numbers off.
I'm just curious.
One of the BZA members is fully trained also.
Okay.
What, wait a minute, what?
What's the complaint steering committee been appointed?
Yeah,
because we got appointed at the beginning of May.
Because it's during the day though.
Yeah,
All right, so.
and there's a lot of overlap, but
Look, I think just from our standpoint, for goodwill to show to our committees, giving the 60-day moratorium doesn't hurt us at all.
well, it's not a more, it's a 60-day reprieve for the required.
Right, in the meantime, we're
In the
gonna have a
meantime, we're
meeting.
gonna have this meeting.
And
We're
then
not officially setting a moratorium, is where I think,
we're extending the deadline
Yes.
60 days.
yes,
And in that time, we're committed to having a
we're
meeting
gonna have a meeting.
with whoever wants to from the BZA and the planning.
sure, that will need to be a public meeting
Yes.
for both boards.
Yeah.
Fine,
We'll all be there.
That's fine. And Nate'll be there. So any legal questions he can answer. Right?
If it's advice of counsel, it needs to be done in executive session because your attorneys, municipal attorneys will not give detailed legal advice in public session. So,
But he won't say what the statute is that requires X, Y, and Z training.
sure, I mean, I'm telling you right now, we have discretion over whether or not we accept alternative training or whether or not we do training that we require. There are different advantages. I can tell you that right. That's what Nate told us. Right, so, the town board has a lot of discretion on this, for these positions. We do not have a lot of discretion for staff. We adopted the title just a couple months, or last month, we adopted the Title VI plan.
Right.
So we could demonstrate that we're in compliance, so that having a policy of everybody takes Title VI, which is the civil rights training on discrimination. Having that plan in place and having that policy in place means that we can very clearly demonstrate if we get audited, as the town of Newfield was audited for their compliance, because they received federal money. It makes it a very clean way to demonstrate compliance there. So it can be a complicated matter. There's not going to be a clean, this is what you have to do, this is what you don't have to do legal answer. And so we've had those conversations.
But I think that's what they're hearing, that there are these requirements and they're ironclad and there's no negotiation. What you're saying now is we have flexibility.
Well, the town board set what the dates were, and we've talked about this. It's not, this has actually been slow walked. This initially came up in several months ago. This was not something that we did
I
overnight.
know, but it's been brewing and boiling and
And
festering.
we accepted public comment and
Since then.
we accepted public comment and many of these comments were made in advance of the town board. You know, and so I'm certainly happy to have conversations. You're gonna have to bring a better argument than I've heard to date about eliminating sexual harassment and civil rights and ethics training for public officials.
Yeah, and I don't know that
And I
anyone's
think there seems to
suggesting
be,
that.
there still seems to be some confusion, and maybe it's just because we haven't had this discussion. But, I mean, I'm fully supportive of requiring anybody who might have authority over project decisions, public decisions, requiring this training. Or civil rights, ethics, and sexual harassment. I think they're very important in this day and age. But I can hear that there's still some misunderstandings.
Or maybe concerns about the actual.
Yeah,
training.
yeah, the actual,
So let's have this discussion.
what you're being
Let's-
trained.
Let's extend this requirement for 60 days
Sure.
Yeah.
and set a meeting
Sooner
and
than later.
sort this all out directly. And try to get honed in on what. But I feel like there's just miscommunication.
Yeah.
So the reason that we're moving, it was proposed and with both our insurance discussions and the attorney said was about accepting trainings that someone else has taken, is the town has no ability to validate those trainings as being applicable. So the town can't say with any affirmity that the training that Cornell provides is good. Now, I believe the training is good. The training I took was good. It's not that, but the town can't affirmatively say that training met our requirements without somebody on the town taking that training. And Cornell's not going to let somebody who's outside of the program do it. The question is with at least Cornell is that I know that Cornell offers different training depending on your position. And so it might be a situation where we could validate, maybe you could validate one of the trainings for the town. But it would only be then people who took that training at Cornell. It couldn't be necessarily a training that someone else took. So it really is, it's a little bit more complicated. I hear that we could maybe find a better remote training option. I thought the training in person was useful and.
And I think we want to encourage everyone who can to come to the next in-person training, for sure. But we're never gonna get 100% attendance.
I mean, would Cornell take our training as valid instead of theirs?
No. Probably not.
You know, probably not, you know, so if you look at it from that angle.
Because ours didn't have, this one didn't have a certificate.
Ours didn't have a certificate?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you could make a certificate.
No, well, yeah, you could. But Cornell's is, they have a, huge insurance overhead as well. huge
Yeah.
Legal overhead. And so with a big organization like that, they're gonna make sure, okay, this is gonna fit as many people as, the 10,000 employees that we have, right? So that if, as Caitlin stated, if something comes up that says, okay, Michael's had his training, but he still misbehaved or something,
Yeah.
But that's true.
Right.
Of whatever training you take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
doesn't
you're a
matter.
bad apple.
Lawyers have ethics training, and they're
Yeah.
continuing education.
CPAs have.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
broke,
I
I
had 4
just took
hours
one the
every
other
3
day,
years.
yes.
Right. So some of those, that's, I think where this is going. It's like, no, I don't want a special out because I'm a good guy.
Right.
We're all active people, so being respectful of their time, say, okay, they have, they do have this training and they have, discussed it amongst their peers.
Finding the training that's appropriate. Are you saying that it's up to the committee, the BZA, to find their own training that's applicable to them?
Not for sexual harassment.
No,
that
no,
part,
but for
But for the other, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I served on the planning board. I would go find my own training, I was already doing training, so it wasn't a big deal, but yeah, I know that, and that's why, frequently Carissa, if she sees, interesting things coming around, she passes, them on to, I don't know if you do the whole board or just the chair.
Usually just chairs.
Well, let's set this, we need to find the time when the people who have the biggest voice can be here. I think, so that we have to hash it out with the people who actually are talking about it.
So do we need to make a resolution, a motion to put 60-day extension
Yeah.
on the requirements?
Yeah, I'll move it. I move it. We put a 60
Okay,
extension on
I'll
the
second that.
training
I don't mind.
requirement
I'm
And-
just gonna do it.
from September 23rd, so to November
So it'd be November
21st or something.
60 calendar days? 60, yeah.
It'd be 60 calendar days. I don't know. what
So
the
whatever
date
that is.
So
And it means-
September is 30 and October is 31, so
Right,
one day less, so. it'll be
November
the-
22nd. Nice, starts
Or-
stops the 23rd.
Is it
I think-
60 days from now?
You know, we could just pick a date. We
Yeah.
don't actually have to do 60 days. We could just say.
But
November
we're,
20.
yeah, that's true.
So it's really
December 1st.
Let's say, no, not more than 60 days. We kind of.
just pick a date. I would just
November
pick.
be
5th,
60
November
days.
15th.
All right,
Okay, November 5th.
okay. We got done before Thanksgiving. So you moved that. And I'm sorry, Michael, did you second that?
No.
I think I did.
Very seconded. Okay. But I will, any further discussion? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's move on. That brings us to new business. New business is related to the Three Falls LDC, which is the entity that the town of Cover, the town of Ulysses, and the village of Trumansburg put together and formed. Rich and I had a good, I would say, good meeting, Three Falls last Thursday. We're in the process of negotiating a licensing agreement with New York State Parks for management. That was the whole purpose of why we formed the LDC and joined Ulysses joined. So what this does is it this resolution would basically empower me to act on behalf of the town to enter into a negotiation or enter into a license agreement. I would serve as your authorized representative on behalf of the town to join the park management agreement without having to bring it back for additional review. It was approved by the village board last night and the town of Covert as well last night.
I move to remove the resolution.
Second. Any questions or discussions related
No.
to it?
Things are moving along well.
Things are moving along really well. There's, like I said before, we don't have a final date, but there will be a public information session, most likely at the fire hall. If there's more, that would be great if we did have a quorum so that we could, just because you're interested. And real positive news that's moving along. I would like to say more, but the state has kind of curtailed our ability to speak out and do public because the state likes to control the messaging. So the things are great.
Okay.
And it's wonderful to work with Rich. So a happy thing. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions or questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have the meetings that we already talked about. I asked the ones that the minutes were circulated. We had a regular meeting on August 8th and a special meeting on August 10th. That was the board retreat with the August 10th meeting. Did anybody have any needs for alterations?
Yeah, there was I can't remember, I don't have the minutes in front of me, but there was a resolution that it says that Liz moved it and seconded
I
it.
saw that, yeah.
And I can't remember, I think either I moved it or seconded, I can't remember, but I'd be happy to be second on that. Was it John Wordus maybe? Yeah, something like that.
Well, thank you for this.
Recognition, you mean?
What's that? Recognition, yeah, I think that's what that was.
Any other alterations? Not, I would move those minutes as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I don't have any board notifications, so we can move on past that. That brings us to payment of audited claims. I am going to excuse myself quickly just to pick up I saw it fly during the meeting that you lost your
Oh, right,
last
yes,
resolution, so I'm gonna grab it up.
thank you.
Little handy dandy.
Yep.
Well, we had. These were reviewed. Who are our reviewers? Liz, and who was the other? Michael, thank you.
Resolved that the Ulysses Town Board is reviewed and approves payment of claims for vouchers number 356 through 403 in the amount of $93,021.67.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We do have, an executive session for two separate purposes. We will need to go, it's short, and then we can come back to privilege of the floor. We will need to go into the conference room. The executive session, I will move this, so we don't have to read it twice. Move into executive session for purposes related to collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, and the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. So I'll move that. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, man. Okay, so we're gonna take that vote again, and that vote was to come out of executive session. Can we revote for the public?
Yeah, move to come out of executive session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The town board was in executive session for previously stated two purposes. We took no action and are resuming our regular meeting. And we are almost at the end of our meeting. Privilege of the floor. I imagine we have, I know in person and maybe online. Sarah, would you like to speak?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little further on the issue of the training. From listening to what you're saying, I feel like there's some misunderstanding about at least what Bob was saying, the BZA was saying, I was saying. Nobody said that they think they're better than anyone else. No one said they don't think it's valuable to have training. All that's being said is that the training, and no one says that Cornell's training is better than the town's training. I challenge you to look at the training that you have assigned us and tell me that you think it's pertinent to what these boards do. And Cornell's is quite equally pertinent, and we really are adults that are capable of figuring out how a situation might be a little bit different, but the basic principles translate. So that was the point. If you want something that's uniform and applicable to the town, then it should be the in-person training, and no one didn't want to do that. It was set before you put in place the policy to have the training, and nobody asked anybody on any of the boards whether they could attend at that date. It was set to work for the town board and the people who work in the town, which is fine, but a lot of the people on these boards work, and so making an effort to be able to have another one that's the same, so that everybody can have the same very pertinent to the town training to do the best for the public, which we are all for, I think would be nice to consider.
So you're suggesting having two dates of the same training,
Yeah, having it so that everybody can
right, but you're
go.
never gonna get that in one
Okay.
day.
But
So
then
maybe we could do 2 dates.
requirement about the interactive, again, I asked, is there a state statute that requires volunteers to take that training and to have it be interactive? I have not found it. I have only seen it for employees. So yes, I'm not saying you shouldn't ask volunteers to do it, but maybe it doesn't have to be interactive, and we could watch the exact same thing as has happened in person, so that everybody is on the same page. If you don't feel that the stuff that other people are getting is pertinent enough, which is fine and makes perfect sense.
So if
But-
we, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
But nobody ever said they thought they were better than anybody else, and I really feel like you should not say things that could be perceived as insulting about the people who work on these boards and committees. A lot of them have done this for many, many years, me included, many of the people on the town board and the BZA. And they keep high standards for themselves. They have all the respect in the world for the town. we've put collectively probably 100 years worth of work into this town. And so you really don't need to be insulting about the way we view ourselves and the way we view the public in the town of Ulysses. So I would really appreciate if could understand it. And the one other thing, since I guess there's nobody else here, is that when the board passed, there was a resolution put forward to do this training. And then there was a lot of input, public input, and then the board decided to table it. And then at that time, you said that you would go talk to the particular boards that were going to have the training and have this interactive dialogue. The liaisons would go. That never happened. And so then it just came with, here's the trainings that are handed down from Mineral Platform or whatever it is. And I don't even know if they were ever even reviewed by everybody on the board, but we're coming back and saying they're not really all that applicable. So please, let's do something that is with our time. So thank you. And thanks for a little.
So if the
Set the
ethics
record straight.
is taped and for the review of people who couldn't make it, what about the other things?
The reason is that ethics, nobody is requiring ethics except the town board. There are no requirements for taking ethics training, even for staff.
Really? I
No,
would think that would be pretty important.
we're requiring our staff to take it, but there's no outside authority requiring it. The interactive sexual harassment part is how do we affirmatively say that someone has taken it? Like with ethics, we're hoping somebody watches a video, but what's to say somebody's not just signing the paperwork that they did and they didn't do it? Now, could we find a workaround that we provide a time where you could come and watch the video at town hall?
Yeah, at night. So instead of doing 2 trainings, do 1 training, tape it, show it to the people at night who couldn't come during the day.
Yeah. That would solve it.
You wouldn't have to have the law firm come again, you know?
Right, and I think when the training becomes optional is when people don't show up. I mean, I know that there were people that boards and committee members were invited to last year's training. And that wasn't necessarily, if it's not required, I think it becomes something I know in my life, if I don't have to do it, and it's not a high priority of mine personally, I might not do it. I can attest very personally, though, that the comprehensive planning steering committee, it was discussed in multiple meetings by the town board liaison and brought to that board. So I'd like to clarify that record. I am not the liaison to the planning board or
Not asking
BCA.
What kind of training they feel like they need, and do you feel, it never came and said, oh, here's this Mineral Platform thing that really makes no sense. I mean, there's like, it's for supervisors and managers.
Right, Roxanne, I understand that, but to the point, I'm just clarifying
That we needed to do it.
the rationale for why the town is doing it. And do you have any questions? And do you have any feedback? I've reached out to everybody. We got a couple people who responded from these boards when we did another round, when it actually came back to the town board. A week before it, I asked if there was public comment, and we did have a couple public comments. I believe we had 2, both from the BZA. Great. Heard nothing from planning board members, heard nothing from the comprehensive plan steering committee members at that point.
You reached out. and
Yes, I
asked-
did. I absolutely did.
I must not have gotten that email.
I'd be happy to forward it.
No worries, I'm just saying that in principle, having the training is okay, but then when the training came, it's 2 hours of like, if you're a manager and this is what you do, and you're a supervisor and this is how you treat your employees, and it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with what we do, except in the most incredibly broad sense, which intuitively you understand and you can get it from other training. So let's make it the town's training if that's what you want. I think that's all anybody that's spoken out about it that I know, that I've heard from is saying. It's all I'm saying.
Well, we did hear from some of the comments. In fact, I was inaccurate. I actually did receive 3 comments response to mine. 1 was from you. So you actually thanked the town board for doing it. So I'm happy to forward that conversation back, but you did respond to it.
I'm not saying.
And
it's
again,
good.
I'm not criticizing you. I just remembered that in fact, we had you reached out, and I appreciated that. And I told the town board that. I think that, I did see, messages that, I shouldn't have to do this training because I've taken it other places and I've taken it all these other places. And my concern was, if you think it's, if you think it's worth taking, and you've taken it for all these other organizations one works for, why is the town not worth taking it for also? And so that's where I would push back and just say is that I think that our public matters, and I think our volunteers on the comp plan steering committee and our appointed public officials matter also. And I think that it sounds to me like it's more of on of the fine tuning of what they're taking rather than that they need to take it. Doesn't seem that the question is around the need to take it. So
When someone made that comment, I'm sure it was for that reason. All the training you've seen before, that is no better at all, no more pertinent to the town, in fact, less so in when I took. And so maybe that's what people meant by that, is that why should I have to take another one? Not that it's the towns, that it's just something that's NA, you know?
Well, but
When
see,
you've already taken other ones, so make it applicable and great, I think people will be happy to take it then.
wonderful. I would love people to be excited to take sexual harassment prevention training. I think that would be a great day if we could get people enthusiastic.
The training that everybody gets on that from New York State, I just don't understand why you think the towns would be so different, why we can't, as smart adults, extrapolate to working for the town. The ethics, that's specific to the town, but.
You know, I wish that we didn't have to worry about the fact that some people don't recognize that their behavior has an adverse impact on other people and makes them feel uncomfortable for discriminatory or sexual harassment reasons. I agree with that. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world, and we need to plan for other contingencies, and not just for the people who are currently on BCA and the planning board, but the people long term. So with that, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
As I say, all in favor? Do we have somebody left? What?